welcome to Nikki and Stitches. I get a ton of questions from beginner users asking about how to get started with decals. So I thought we would go over some of the basics today. We're going to do it 2 times. We're going to start with a very simple one-color decal, create it in our software, and then apply it. And then we're going to jump up to a multicolor decal, in this case just 2 colors, and we'll use registration marks to get the layers perfectly aligned and then apply that one. You can use this same idea for a decal with as many colors as you'd like to create. So if you're a beginner user, you might want to watch the whole thing all the way through. If you are more advanced and you really want to learn how to use registration marks to your advantage, you might want to skip ahead to the second demo. We're going to go back and forth from our software to the work table and work through the project 2 times. Let's get started.
So we're going to get started with a simple one color decal. In this case, it's a monogram, but it can really be anything that you want. I will show you exactly how I made this one. We'll start by clicking the add some text button and then click anywhere in a blank space and then just type, in this case, the initials that you would like to use. You click in a blank space and then click back on them to edit them. So we're going to cut this from vinyl. It doesn't really matter what color we make them in here. It really will matter what color vinyl we put through our machines. But I like to fill it with the appropriate color because it helps me get a better idea of if all the pieces are going to work together proportionally. So you can click the open the fill color window, and I'm going to fill this with black since I'll be cutting it from black vinyl. Then you can click on the text button up here in the top right nav bar, and this will let you adjust the text. For this example, I'm going to use a collegiate heavy outline font that I picked up for free. You can do a quick Google search and find it for yourself if you'd like it. And we're just going to adjust the size and placement of these letters. So the first thing I did was clicked on the bottom right corner here to make them bigger. And I'm really focusing here on the M. I want to start with that one and get that one to a width that I kind of like. And then from there, I'm going to ungroup them so I can adjust the other letters appropriately. So if I click ungroup from the bottom left corner, click on a blank space, and now hold down the shift key on your keyboard and click just the N and the B. And you'll see that now, with both of those selected, if we click on the arrow of one, both of them will kind of shrink or grow together. So I'm going to shrink them down a little bit because I want them to be a little bit smaller than the M. And then click in a blank space and just move them into place. Now, one other thing I did want to do for this example was I wanted these to be a little bit more tall and thin than they are here. But I don't want them to move out of place. I like where they are. So if I click and drag to select all 3, and then if I just pull down this little white box in the middle of the M, it doesn't really matter which one you click, but I'll go with the M because it's in the middle. If you click and pull that down, all of them will stretch and grow, you can see, but they don't move out of place. So that's perfect right there. And that's surprisingly close to the first one that I made up top. If I wanted it to be a little bit wider, it looks like it needs to be a little wider. Again, we don't want them to move. So click and drag to select all 3 and then pull on one of the arrows. And you can see they will all stretch and grow proportionately. And we don't have to do them one at a time to try to match them up. And now this guy is ready to cut. I'll meet you back over at the work table and I'll show you how to apply it.
Okay, so you can see that I have my decal weeded here, and since it's the single one color, there's no need for registration marks. And to weed things away, I just use this little hook tool that Silhouette provides, or you can really use any kind of hook tool that you can find, and you're just going to pull away all the parts that you don't need. And now to transfer your decals over, the nice thing about vinyl compared to paper is that you use a transfer medium. I like to use a clear transfer tape to take the whole entire thing over in one big step instead of going piece by piece. So you just want to take your transfer tape and put it on top of the decal, and then take any kind of a scraper. You can get a true scraper, or I just used my old driver's license, and give it a really good scrape so that the vinyl is sticking now really to that adhesive tape and not so much to the backing that it came on. So you want to just flip it over, peel off that backing, and you can see how easy it is since we gave it that good scrape, and the decal is now stuck to the transfer tape and ready to get now stuck to your tumbler cup or whatever it is that you're going to use. So I have a tumbler cup right here, and the hardest part is just getting it nice and straight. It's going to be even harder for me to do since I'm doing it one-handed on camera, but we're going to try our best to really, you want to focus on the M, get that nice and centered in the middle, and then from there you can kind of work your way out. Now you don't want to get any air bubbles, so I have found that the best way to do that, especially on a curved surface like this, is really just to take my finger and work from the center in one direction, going up and down, really pressing down, and you can hear, if I'm quiet, can hear the bubbles kind of popping. So you go in one direction and then work your way the other direction. Again, from the center, working your way out so that everything is nice and flat on there. And then you can peel it off nice and slow. If it does start to lift a little bit, go back and give it another good push. But usually once you get it started, you can see, once you get started, it tends to stick on there pretty well. And here we go. We're going to peel this all the way off. And like I said, sometimes there's little spots that will kind of lift up. You just kind of sometimes have to have a little bit of patience. But what's nice is if you catch it right away, you can just use your finger to get it back down. You don't want to let it go too far, because if you pull too much of it off and it peels up, it's going to be harder to get it back in place, and it also leaves you open to getting more air bubbles. So if you see a piece lifting, you want to stop and fix that pretty quickly. But there you go. There is our first single color decal applied to our tumbler cup.
So the second decal we're going to do is 2-color, and you can really do this with a decal that is as many colors as you'd like. You're going to walk through this process just repeatedly over and over again for each color, but I will, just to keep it simple today, we're just going to do 2 colors. So the ballerina slippers were a design that I picked up, I think, from the Silhouette online store. I have them right here. You can use anything that you would like. And they come through pretty big, so we'll shrink them down to size. That looks good right about there. Let me pull it down a little bit. And just like before, it makes sense for me to fill these with color, because it helps me see how the pieces fit together. And then we'll do the same thing to add my name. To add the text, click on the text button and click in a blank space. Type your name. And again, I'm going to fill it with color and adjust the font. So to do that, click in a blank space and then click back on it. We'll open the fill color window and make it black. And then we'll open the text style window. And in this case, this font is called Aquarelle. And it is another one that I picked up for free. So do a quick search and you can find it. Same thing for this one. I clicked on the bottom right corner to make it a little bit wider, but I still thought that it needed to be a little bit taller to fit with my ballet slippers. So once I got to the correct width, I then clicked on the white square at the bottom and pulled it down to make it a little bit taller. And you can put it wherever you'd like. For this example, I do want them to overlap, because that's kind of the whole point, for me to show you exactly how I do multiple layers and get them to fit in place. So the key to multiple layers, once we have them now in place, is to add registration marks. So for me, I just use basic X's. You can use any shape you like, but I like an X because it's really simple. So I click on the text button and I'm going to click anywhere, it doesn't matter, and I'm going to type an X and click in a blank space. And you always want 2 registration marks. So I'll click on this X and go up to Edit, Copy, and then Edit, Paste to make another one. And now we're going to move these into place. So it makes sense for them to be at the top. And you kind of want them to overlap your pieces as little as possible. So you can see the X's are kind of hitting the top of the ballet slippers a little bit here. So technically we should move them up above. The only reason why I wouldn't is as you get better and better at this technique, if you let them overlap a little bit, then you won't waste as much vinyl. But if you are a true beginner, then it does make sense to keep them up above your design so that as you are layering your pieces, you don't have to worry about getting your actual decal in the way. So we've got 2. That's all we usually need for at least a small decal that's just going on a tumbler cup. And now we're going to prep this for cutting, because in our first example, 1 color meant that it was a simple, you put 1 piece of vinyl through your machine. Here we're using 2 colors, so we're going to have to do 2 cuts to get this, to get both pieces cut through our machine. So the key is, and the most important thing to remember is that for each color, you want to keep those registration marks with the decal, and you don't want to move them accidentally. So the easiest way to do that is really just to make another whole copy of it. And if you have a lot of colors, and this could be time consuming, but you kind of get pretty quick at it. So since I have 2 colors, I'm going to click and drag, make a copy of this. Here it is, and move it over. So if I have 2 colors, I want my design 2 times. And first we'll do the pink. So you keep your registration marks and the pink, and you get rid of everything else. So we'll click on the black and delete it. That one is ready to go. We're going to send that through and cut our pink vinyl just like that. And then let's pretend we did that, and now we want to cut our black. So over here, we want to get rid of everything except for the black and the registration marks. So you click on the pink and hit delete, and now send this through your machine and cut it out of black. So I will meet you back at my work table where I have both of these pieces, the ballet slippers and the registration marks cut from the pink, and my name and the registration marks cut from the black.
Okay, so now we're going to get started with our 2-color transfer. So you can see I have both pieces cut and weeded. And again, just to review what we did in the software, we cut the ballerina slippers and the registration marks out of the pink. And then we cut our name and also the registration marks out of the black. And the key to this is that the registration marks have not moved from one to the other, and they're going to help us get things perfectly lined up. So we want to, this is our back piece of our design. So we want to start layering our colors on top of this. And in this case, like I said, there's just the black that's going to go on top of the pink. But the more times you do this, the more colors that you do, you want to work your way up. So you want to finish with that last color that goes on the very top. We're going to start off the same way we did it before with our transfer paper. So we're just going to take a piece and put it across the center here and get a really, really good scrape. Make sure that the decal is now, like I said before, technically sticking to the transfer paper and not so much to our backing paper. And this is where things are about to get a little different. So we're going to peel this up. And instead of taking it right over to my background pink color, I'm going to put it back on my transfer paper. But as you can see, the 2 registration marks at the top, the X's, are hanging off the back. And I want that. I'm going to use those to line up this piece exactly on top of the pink piece. But by putting it back on the transfer paper with just the X's hanging off, I don't have to worry about my name accidentally sticking somewhere where I don't want it and then not being able to move it. So then I'm going to bring over the pink piece. And like I said, we don't have to worry about this sticking too much because we have that backing paper on it. We're going to, it's tricky doing this sideways, but we're going to line up the black X's right on top of the pink X's. So I'm going to line them up, and then I'll lift it up and show you. You can see now the pink X's are invisible because the black X's are exactly over top of them. There should be no pink X left to see. And now we have to get rid of this backing paper in between. So very carefully, you just lift up the top layer and pull it off. And then you slowly want to bring that black layer down. And if it helps sometimes to decrease the amount of air bubbles you might get, it helps to kind of work from this direction. You take your scraper and you slowly scrape it forward and out so that we get no air bubbles. And then from there, now we can take this entire decal, which as you can see, the name is perfectly in place on top of the ballet slippers, and transfer it over to the tumbler cup. Some people ask, can you go layer by layer onto the tumbler cup? And sure, you absolutely can. But transferring things onto a curved surface is a lot harder than transferring them onto this flat surface. So for me, I do all of the layers here where it's easier, flat, and then I do one large transfer of the decal over to the tumbler cup. So we just are gonna peel off this entire thing, and it's okay if our registration marks don't make it with us in this case. We no longer need them. So you can see one of the pink ones got stuck behind, that's fine. And we're going to, again, transfer this over. I'm gonna do my best to do it one-handed and try to get it nice and straight on here. So let's see. Oh, this looks pretty good. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna start in the middle and work our way out that way, and then go back to the middle and work our way into the other direction. There we go. And see, you don't have to worry about transferring your registration marks over. If they accidentally stick to your cup, that's totally fine. You can peel them off at the end, but I'm going to slowly peel away the transfer paper. And again, if I have some spots where it's lifting up, just try to catch it as soon as you can with your finger. There we go. We're gonna pull the rest of it off. You can see that if we had tried to do this color by color onto the tumbler cup, it would have been pretty tricky. So by doing one large transfer at the end, it kind of reduces the chance of things going wrong. And we'll peel off this registration mark that's stuck behind. And there we have our 2-color decal transferred over perfectly and with the layers perfectly lined up on top of each other. That same technique for as many colors in your decal as you have. You just want to make a copy for each color and delete out all the pieces that you don't want to cut, and just keep the color you do want to cut and the registration marks. The key is to make sure that your registration marks don't accidentally wiggle out of place in your software. And then when you're at your work table and you're layering the designs, remember that the trick there is to peel off your decal and put it back on with just those registration marks hanging off of the top, and that will make layering them all up really, really easy. So I hope that helps those of you who are just getting started with decals, and those of you who maybe are making the jump over from paper to vinyl. If you have more questions, you can always email me, nikki@nikkiinstitches.com. And I also would encourage you to take a look at the Crafting with Your Silhouette program at the Nikki in Stitches Craft Academy. We jump into our silhouette software even deeper than you can ever imagine that you could possibly go, and create so many projects every month inside the monthly program, and it's a ton of fun. So please take a look there at nikkiinstitchescraftacademy.com, and I hope to see you in class soon. Thanks so much. Bye.